Hey y'all, welcome to the Coyote Trapping School podcast. I'm your host, Chris Pope. Getting into starting to flirt a little bit with summertime temperatures. We've actually had pretty nice, I don't know about y'all, but our spring has been, it kind of heated up a little bit and then it cooled back off and has been, I would say in general, especially in the morning, a little bit cooler than usual, which has been nice because I know the heat in the summer's coming. But so I hope y'all have been enjoying. I know this whole, hopefully, a lot of states are starting to lift things with the whole coronavirus pandemic. So hopefully you're all navigating that and being able to loosen up and actually get some things accomplished. So maybe soon, hopefully we can get back to a some whatever the new normal is going to be, right? But today I wanted to dive in. So, well, it's been a couple weeks ago now, but I took the NWCOA's Wildlife Control Operator Training course. And it was actually the reason I took it was I was on their site. I was actually signing up to be a NWCOA member, and I saw where they were offering it online. I said, man, that's an awesome deal because usually it's in person, and you have to figure out where's the closest area that they have it to you, and then you got to travel, And it being offered online, I signed up. I think it filled up pretty quick. I signed up, and I think it was. I'm sure glad I did. So I was just going to kind of go through a little overview of that. Hopefully, give y'all some insight and input if it's something that you've kind of been on the fence about. Maybe it'll help you make a decision one way or the other. But for starters, of course, we always got to thank our sponsors, Koch Bros Lures. That's who. If you're needing supplies for the upcoming season or for your nuisance stuff, if you're trapping, you're trapping beavers or coyotes, predators, whatever, they can definitely get you hooked up. So go check out Koch Bros. Be sure to sign up for their newsletter. That way you'll get up-to-date information on any sales they're running and, specials that they've got going on. A lot of the trapping companies, they kind of alternate their monthly sales, and they'll have a different thing on sale every month. And definitely Koch Bros has some really nice, really informative books and videos. So now is a great time to be trying to educate yourself and kind of brush up for next season because, man, it seems a long ways off, but y'all know as well as I do it's going to be here before you know it. And I'm sitting here like I do every time saying I'm going to try to get ahead on my trap preparation. I actually extended my shed a little bit thinking, man, this is going to give me a lot of room. It's going to be perfect. And it's never big enough apparently because it filled up so fast and I still don't have the room that I was hoping and thinking. So maybe y'all got a little bit better organization than I do, or a little bit better space management, but that's definitely something I got to work on. But so hit up Koch Bros, and add stuff in your wish list when you're that's something that I've started doing as I'm thinking about what I need for next season. I always try to write things down, but then I'll forget where I left the sticky note or whatever. So I'm using the wish list feature on the website. So whenever I think of something, I'll add it to my wish list, and then I know where it is. So that's definitely helpful. But and if you ever call Kyle or email Kyle or Kellen, let them know where you heard them from about. Let them know you come from the Coyote Trapping School podcast. That always helps to know where customers are coming from and that they're getting something out of getting a return for the investment in ads. So we definitely appreciate that. So moving in to the Wildlife Control Operators training courses offered by NWCOA, National Wildlife Control Operators Association. I believe this may have been the first or one of the first times that they've offered online course like this. Like I said, typically their courses are offered in person, and it's different areas around the country, and then they always offer different trainings at their expo usually it's in early in the year, January, February, and that moves around. So if you attend the expo, I think they have some trainings during the expo, but then they also have some trainings before and after, because some of these trainings, like this training was 2 days long, a solid 2 days. And so it's something it's definitely a time commitment. The ability for it to be online where I didn't have to travel, man, that was a huge plus. And I think it's something that they're going to be doing in the future. They mentioned when we was going through it that this summer they were going to try to have their first BAT standards course online. And I wished I could have gone ahead and signed up then, because that's something that hands down I know that I'm going to sign up for, just from going through this training and the information and knowledge that I gained from it was well worth it. So to give you an idea, NWCOA membership, it varies. They've got a couple of tiered levels. So they got a $250, I think it's called a professional level, and then a $150 associate level. And so there's also other benefits from access to insurance and discounts at different trap supply places like Wildlife Control Supplies and Tomahawk Traps. But then with these courses, you also get a member discount for the course. So this course is $350 to non-members or $300 to members. So you think about that, $250 membership fee and a $300 course. That's not cheap. But in my opinion, it was well worth the money. Like I said, I'll definitely, if I have the opportunity to sign up for another course, depending on what it is. So I've already seen, and I don't know, it may have been done by the time this episode airs, but I saw where they were having a reptile and amphibians course online, and that's not something that I deal a lot with. So that didn't really interest me. But like I said, the bats, as soon as they offer that one online, I can promise you that I'm signing up for that. So just a little background, or maybe not background, but perspective, it's something we talked about in the interview with Stephen Van Tassel. But, I think it's important if this is something that you really want to be in as a wildlife control operator, and, this is a business that you want to be in, whether it's full-time or part-time. If you think about it, if you're familiar with, many other kind of professional industries, there's a lot of them that require certification and a lot of them that require continuing education, every year, every other year, so many hours of continuing education. And, at the current time, in a lot of places, nuisance trapping and wildlife control operators, it's pretty lax as far as regulation and continuing education requirements and things like that. And while that's convenient for us as operators, I think in the long run, I think eventually we're going to get to the point that we have those same requirements and restrictions. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I just hope that it's not a bad thing, some kind of error or violation on a trapper's part that results in those regulations getting enforced. But also, I think it shows, trying to think of the way to say this, but it shows the initiative and effort on our part that hey, we're taking the initiative to try to continue ourselves, try to better ourselves, try to be up to date with the latest equipment, the latest tactics, and I think that bodes well for an individual operator, and as well as all of us, the collective. Because there's, it's just like with trapping, there's always something to learn. And especially when you're a newbie starting out like myself, these guys that have been around for even two years plus, they've seen things. I mean, every situation is a little bit different. And so, it's a lot of good opportunity to kind of take advantage of the knowledge of other people to help improve your situation and prepare you for running across those situations in the future. So, from that perspective, and strictly from a training perspective, I know some of these trainings are taken by technicians, so companies, whether it's like a bigger True Tech company or something like that, or whether it's just, a relatively small company like Kyle Waltz and, some of his technicians taking it. It's a very valuable learning tool in my opinion, especially for people that don't have a lot of experience. So, like I said, it's a solid 2-day course, and you get, so prior to the course, you get this book. I mean, it's thick. It's 277 pages, and there's 3 slides. So it's basically the kind of PowerPoint outline, 3 slides per page. And it's a solid 2 days. There's question and answer sessions. And so, I mean, be ready. it's incredibly convenient that it was offered online, but typically it is offered in person, and I know that would be a great opportunity just from the standpoint of being, in the same room with not only people taking the class, but the instructors, and really being able to form those relationships. That's what any industry really and truly is about, is relationships, and managing relationships. And so being able to take advantage of that, and talk to people in person would definitely be a big benefit. But there's no way I would have waited to take this course to do it in person versus being able to take it online. So, and it's really geared well for a beginner. And I don't necessarily consider myself, uh, you know, straight off the street beginner, because as trappers, we've got a lot of experience anyway. We're used to looking for sign and trying to read sign and figure out, how animals are traveling. And so, instead of doing that in the woods, you're just doing that on a house or an attic or whatever, So it's that part of it. The trapping part is probably the easiest to come by, honestly, because it's not that much different. It's the same style of thinking. You may be after squirrels instead of coyotes, but it's the same type of thinking. But the some of the business things, and then the after work, which is, this it's one of the things that these guys talked about, and I think we talked about it with Kyle Walls, talked about it with several people, but the money, and it's not all about the money. So it's all about your business model and what you're comfortable with and what you enjoy. But the money in these, being a wildlife control operator, is in the exclusion work, not in the trapping. So there's no doubt in my mind that you can make, a nice living doing, strictly trapping, and, running your business that way. But the scalability, and or even the ability for you as an owner to be able to step back and have somebody else, kind of run your business is not near as obvious if you're strictly looking at it from a trapping perspective versus the exclusion perspective. And that's really where some of these guys and some of this information really shines. I'm writing a note right here because one of the things, and Steve Van Tassel talked about it, you don't have to be a member of NWCOA to join their Facebook page. And I would definitely recommend, if this is something that you're interested in, join that Facebook page. There's people that are posting constantly, and if you've got a question, before, I'd scroll for a little while and look, but I type it in the search bar, because that's what I did. I had a particular question about construction gaps and how different people address those, and I kind of searched, or I scrolled a little bit looking, and then I just typed in the search construction gap, and it popped up with one of the very knowledgeable administrators, I think, on the page. And it's that Facebook group is a wealth of information if that's something you're interested in. But getting back to the training, it was they covered the whole gamut, and it was kind of a broad overview, no real deep dives, but it was really just enough. So they talked about safety. That's something that I've kind of realized a little more. The issues and the safety, the risk potential, but then hearing these guys outline some more of the safety risks, and the things, whether you're crawling under houses, you're on ladders, you're on roofs, in attics, there's a lot of risk potential with doing this kind of work, and that's definitely something that you've got to keep in your mind. And because the last thing that any of us wants to do is break out into business at doing what we love, and then all of a sudden get hurt. And I know as trappers, we're not always super safety minded, and there's a lot of things that we think we can just kind of force our way through, and there's just a lot of risk. And I think that was very appropriate, especially in a beginner style training, of pointing out that there is a lot of risk, and trying to recognize what all those risks may be. One of the things that the things that got my wheels kind of turning is I recently did a job, just an exclusion job on a house, a 2-story house, and one of the sides of the house I had to work around a power line, and so I was trying to be cautious of that and take account, and I was just kind of Googling, looking around, and I found a YouTube video about power line safety and working around power line safety safely, and the video was about a guy that was trying to move a ladder, and like I've done 1,000 times, like a lot of us do, had an aluminum ladder extended up, and instead of dropping the ladder down and moving it like a normal person should, what are we going to do? We're going to try to carry it, fully extended to the next spot. And he lost the ladder, kind of got away from him and started leaning back, and he's trying to catch it the whole time. Well, there was a power line behind him, and the power line caught it, and it, being an aluminum ladder, it zapped him and killed the guy. And that really resonated with me, because one, I've done that 1,000 times, maybe not 1,000, but I've done that my share of times of moving the ladder, like that. And two, not always thinking about looking to make sure there's no power lines that I might, if this ladder were to get away from me, might this ladder come in contact with something? Because I would venture to say every one of us, if we're handling a ladder and it's getting away from us, we're going to try to catch it up to like the last minute that we absolutely can't. And so it's just almost, it would be an instinct to hang on to that ladder and try to steer it, and not recognize that, man, that thing hits that wire, I'm toast, and let go. I don't know. Anyway, that's one thing that just in recent days or weeks kind of really highlighted in my mind. And then as we went through this training, and they started pointing out the safety risks, the safety aspects, and using respirators and face masks, and what we're crawling through attics or crawling under crawl spaces. I don't know. I thought that was a very valuable segment that anybody that's interested in getting into this line of work full time needs to hear. Whether that's through whoever, it's something that needs to always be thought about and considered. Moving on from that, they talked about inspections and proper ways to go through inspections, areas to look, and how to just kind of standardize your inspection system so you don't miss anything, and just the overall highlighting the importance of inspections, because that's what that's ultimately what drives our business, right? Talked about methods and equipment, and then they got into the most common kind of problem animals, which is bats, raccoons, skunks, squirrels, and birds. And so it was probably about 2 hours or so per kind of subject, and there was a couple more added in there. And like I said, it was a lot of different slides, a lot of pictures and discussion around proper ways to do things. And so when you get into the animals, it talked about the general biology and reading sign, where to look for it, the different trapping or exclusion methods, and then different trapping and entry and exit methods, and then the exclusion itself. And really and truly, from my perspective, one of the most valuable things about the training was the instructors, because they had a panel of instructors, and certain ones presented on their specialties or their strengths, and there's question and answer sessions at the end, and they would answer specific questions about addressing an issue or a certain type of exclusion or something, and then even going through the presentation, they would talk about how they when they've run across this in the past, how they addressed it, or just the real world experience that those guys just kind of off the cuff offered, to me was extremely valuable and worthwhile to the course. So I say all that to say, I know I kind of sound like a fanboy probably, but in my opinion, if this, if being a wildlife control operator is something that you're seriously interested in, whether it's working for yourself, working for somebody else, I think this course would be valuable. If you're working for somebody else, maybe you can, pitch that to your boss or whoever that this would be, something worthwhile for you to take. Because ultimately you've got two ways to learn things, right? You either got time or money is how you're going to learn. And so this is shortcutting it and spending money and cutting out some of the time. And there's definitely opportunities if you wanted to work for somebody else, or you are working for somebody else. That's a great way to learn and get started in the business. But then you got that conflict of leaving and doing your own thing, and to each his own so far as that's concerned. But that's one kind of reason that I've always shied away, is just because I've always known I wanted to try to do my own thing, and I don't like the idea of I guess kind of putting myself in that situation of trying to not really fully committing and knowing that I'm not here very long and I'm going to go do something, do the same thing on my own. So I have had the chance to work through the Trappers Association and just through some of the other guys that I know. I've had a chance to work with them just as on certain projects, and that's been extremely valuable. And the ability to work with somebody and see on the job experience is huge. And so if you can do that, whether that's traveling and working for somebody for free or whatever, that's definitely something that has a lot of value and has a lot of potential if that's something that you could swing. Otherwise, I definitely think getting some kind of training versus just trying to kind of cowboy it, make it up on your own. Because I've been in a situation that I go and I look at a job, and like I said, I know I got a pretty good idea of how to deal with the animal, but how do I deal with sealing this thing up, or and I've done some jobs that I figured out after the fact that probably wasn't the best. It's gonna the fix is gonna last, but there's probably something that would have been easier on my end to do that would have been just as good or maybe better. And that's all part of it, is there's going to be some stuff that you're going to learn the hard way, learn through time. And then there's going to be some opportunities that if you can take them, you can shortcut that and learn a little bit shorter and learn a little bit more efficient. So, anyway, this is kind of a short one, but I did want to give y'all an update on that, because I am a certified wildlife control operator now. So at the end of the course, there is a test that you take, and the test is pretty straightforward if you pay attention, and if you're interested in this kind of stuff. There's no issue paying attention, because it's all stuff that you're interested in. So and some of it's learning probably stuff that you already know, but there's a lot of it that you don't, or may not ever thought about or applied it differently. So I will sum it up as in my opinion, taking the wildlife control operator course was well worth the money. And I intend to try to take more courses through NWCOA, just because I don't necessarily have anybody that I can learn from, on the job per se, and the better prepared that I can be ahead of a job versus trying to Google and search on Trapper Man or whatever and figure out after I've looked at the job, the better off I'm going to be in the long run, in my opinion, because I'll have all that knowledge on the forend instead of trying to gain it on the back end. So teach his own. Everybody's got their own style and their own way of doing things. I just hope I'm just trying to put this information out there to for anybody that's interested, to give you some thoughts, some ideas, and a little bit of idea of what you may expect. So anyway, like I've signed off a few other times, I hope y'all are getting some something out of these kind of business podcasts and discussions. I've got some feedback from some folks, and some feedback from the price list podcast that I did, or the overhead podcast, and I think that, I don't know, I was very pleased with that, how that turned out, and that spreadsheet. I think that's hugely valuable, and that's definitely helped me. And so, anyway, we probably have and maybe one or two more episodes around the NWCOA, the wildlife control operator content, and then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled trapping content. Probably talk a little bit about trap prep, and hopefully be doing some of that as well before things get too far along. So anyway, hope y'all are having a great, heck, we're almost in the summer now. Hope y'all are having a great summer, catching some fish, prepping for the trap line, and we will catch up with you next time.